I would 10 out of 10 recommend and realize, oh, that's who I made out with last night at the bar. Let this be your sign. If you are someone like that, just read the Caraval trilogy. Her writing is so fast-paced and so captivating from the second you pick up the book. Why are they just so cute together? I just can't. Hello, my beautiful besties. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, obviously, as you know, we're going to be talking about all the books I read in August. I'm going to tell you guys if you should read them or if you should save your time and just read something else because it's not that good. So with that being said, we're going to get right into it because why would we keep yapping? There's no reason. There's no reason. We're going to yap about important things, not important things.
My name is not important.
So the first book that I finished in the month of August was actually an audiobook, and that was Have I Told You This Already by Lauren Graham. I just need to start by saying before I review this book that Gilmore Girls is my favorite show that has ever been invented, that I have ever watched. I have literally rewatched it more times than I can count, probably over 30 times. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm actually not kidding because the way that the second I finish it, I restart it immediately. It's a comfort show. I'm literally watching it all the time. I watch it every day. Okay, so with that being said, for those of you who don't know, Lauren Graham is the actress who plays Lorelai in Gilmore Girls. I have already listened to her memoir prior to this one, which was Talking as Fast as I Can. So I knew I wanted to listen to more of her work because I thoroughly enjoyed listening to that one and listening to her talk about her time on Gilmore Girls, but also listening to her talk about how she got to the point of getting the role on Gilmore Girls. So this other memoir, Have I Told You This Already, is kind of just a continuation of her telling us stories of throughout her life, her working on Gilmore Girls and working on other projects and just stories that she wants to tell and thinks that is funny or fun, things she doesn't want to forget. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time listening to this. I love listening to her books because she does narrate them herself. And so I'm literally basically just like, it feels like I'm listening to Lorelai talk, which is so fun because if you're not someone who's ever seen Gilmore Girls or you're not obsessed like me, the actress Lauren Graham is quite literally Lorelai to a T. Like I swear every interview I see of her, she is Lorelai. She was made for that role or that role was made for her. So listening to her talk is basically just like listening to Lorelai except the real life version, and I just have so much fun listening to it. I could actually sit here and ramble for hours about how much I loved it. Just know I loved it. I would highly recommend, especially if you're someone who loves Gilmore Girls, I would 10 out of 10 recommend listening to her memoirs or read them, whichever you would prefer. I just love listening to them because again, she narrates them herself and I love hearing her talk and read them to me. But regardless, absolutely loved it. This is a 5-star. Obviously, I just want to preface by saying that a 5-star in a memoir is a lot different than a 5-star fiction book for me, so just keep that in mind. But this was a 5-star and I would 10 out of 10 recommend. Couldn't have loved it any more than I did. And then the next book I ended up reading was actually Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. I was so highly anticipating reading this after I finished Done and Dusted. I want to say I read Done and Dusted in June or July. I'm not sure which one of the two. And I fell in love with Wes, which is the main character of this one, when reading Done and Dusted, so I was so excited to read his book. I was also so excited to read this one because the main plot point of this book is that his love interest is the interior designer working on a project that he is going to be doing on their family's ranch. And if you know me, then you know interior design is one of my biggest passions in life. I would love to flip houses one day. I love decorating and designing spaces. I can't walk into a room without imagining how I would set it up, how I would put furniture. It's actually ridiculous, but I just can't. Like, that's just how my brain is wired. So I loved that aspect of this book. I love kind of seeing a lot of myself in our main character Ada. The amount of even teensy tiny little bit of similarities between me and her was so crazy. I saw so much of myself in her. I saw so much of myself in Wes, and also not a main character in the book, but I also see a lot of myself in Emmy. Like they just all have different qualities that I see in myself. So reading this series is so fun because it's literally like reading about different parts of what makes me me, and I love that. And also I was absolutely obsessed with the romance in this. It was so good. I loved watching their whole like dynamic of the fact that like they had to make out the night that she gets into town, not knowing that like he's gonna be her boss and like she's gonna be working for him, and then the next day they meet and realize, oh, that's who I made out with last night at the bar. So I loved seeing their dynamic. I loved just everything about the romance. It was so fun, like the banter between the two of them, and also just the little moments of like things he would do for her, and it was just so sweet, and I really ate it up. I absolutely love this. I think I ended up giving this a 4.25 out of 5 stars. I was anticipating a 5-star and it just didn't quite hit that mark for me, but I would still 10 out of 10 recommend this series, and I loved this book definitely more than Done and Dusted. They're so fun. They're really quick and and easy reads, but they're also just they're so fun and cute. And if you like cowboy romances and you haven't read these, you definitely need to. And if you've never read a cowboy romance, then you definitely need to, because they're so freaking good. I actually can't even begin to describe how good cowboy romances are. So you need to pick it up. I would highly recommend reading this. And the next book I ended up reading in August was Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I ended up picking this up from Barnes on a whim because I saw everyone and their mom posting about this book and saying how it was so good and just absolutely loving it. And I've never read anything by her before, so I decided this was gonna be the first one, picked it up, and I ended up thoroughly enjoying my time reading this. I thought the entirety of this book was so good. I loved seeing our main female character, Allie, and how she's kind of going through grieving her mother, and she's also going through a divorce at the same time, and just seeing like how she handles that and how she's trying to work through it, especially for the fact that her and her husband do have kids, and how that kind of dynamic works. And her husband's kind of a grade A asshole, so that's a whole problem in and of itself. So yeah, that was like really interesting, and I really enjoyed reading that part of it. But the romance in this was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed the romance between Allie and Ethan. I couldn't remember his name for a second. Anyways, I thoroughly enjoyed the romance between the two of them. It was so good. The moments that they shared was so sweet. I feel like Ethan was literally like the sweetest. Literally, he is literally the definition of like a very misunderstood person who is genuinely like the sweetest person down to his core and to his bones. I literally loved reading the romance between the two of them. I also didn't know anything about this book going into it, so I was very surprised at some of the things that kind of have to do with the romance. And like, I don't want to say it because I don't know if it's like a known thing, so like just know I was very surprised at some things, but very pleasantly surprised because it was one of my favorite tropes. I just didn't know it was in this book. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this. I would honestly really recommend. I know we are all probably getting into the fall spirit. We are all wanting to read some cozy fall reads, so I know this might not be the book you want to pick up right now, but I would highly recommend it. I think it was really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed. And it is still September, so you could probably still get away with a little bit of a summery book, so highly recommend. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I think. That could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed. Would highly recommend. Pretty sure I just said that so many times, but now you really know that I recommend. The next book I ended up reading, I actually do not have the physical copy on me right now because I gave it to my sister to borrow and she's currently reading it, and that is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This was my book club book for the month of August, and my book club is on Discord. The link is always down below, and I swear, if any of you try and go join and it tells you the link is expired, I'm actually gonna pull every strand of my hair out, because the way that I change the link every single time and I set it to never expire, and for some reason I'm still having issues, it's really annoying and I'm so sorry. So if that happens, literally comment down below on this video, send me a DM, any way that you can get in contact with me, and I will send you a new link. Don't you worry, I will get to it. Like, I will send you a new link. So going into this, I was really excited to read it because a lot of people I had heard saying it was kind of giving Criminal Minds, and I used to watch all the crime shows like that when I was younger with my dad. Like, that was the thing that we would watch all the time. So I was very excited to read it because of that. But it's by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I have read the first 2 in the Inheritance Games trilogy by her, and those are some of my favorite books. I love them. The Hawthorne Legacy like completely surprised me with like how much I ended up loving it. Her writing is amazing and it is so fast paced. So I was very excited going into this book to hopefully have the same experience, and boy oh boy did I have the same experience. Her writing is so fast paced and so captivating from the second you pick up the book. It is actually insane how good her writing is. I actually cannot stress enough how much I love her as an author, and she is definitely one of my favorite authors. This book was so good. I loved the aspect of we have this group of teens that are the naturals. They have these abilities that they're just extra good at, and they're working with the FBI. They're kind of in this program and they are kind of trying to solve cold cases, and oh my god, the way that this book ended up playing out was not what I was expecting, but it was so freaking good. I actually cannot even describe to you how good it is. I actually cannot wait to continue this series. I ended up reading this book in a 24-hour readathon that should be up soon. I just need to finish editing it. I had a lot of footage, so there's a lot to go through on that, so bear with me. That footage will be in your hands soon, I promise. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so freaking good. So many things happened in it that I was not expecting. It took so many twists and turns, but it was amazing. And also, Jennifer Lynn Barnes knows how to write a love triangle. Love triangle is one of my least favorite tropes, okay? But the way she writes it in the Inheritance Games and now in the Naturals is so good that I can't help but eat it up. And I definitely have a favorite, and I definitely think that my favorite is going to be the winner. And I'm so happy about it, especially because I cannot lie to you guys, my favorite in the Inheritance Games did not win. He did not win that competition. But regardless, she knows how to write a love triangle, and boy oh boy does she do it good. So yeah, I ended up giving that, I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Again, this could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I did. And the next book I read, I also don't have the physical copy on me because I also gave it to my sister to borrow, because I read this in the 24-hour readathon and I immediately was like, Tamiko, you need to read this. You're gonna love it. It's so good. Like, this is so up your alley. You're going to enjoy this so much. And that is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This, I think, is the one singular book that one of you guys picked for my TBR last month that I actually read, and for some reason it was just calling to me, okay? And the way I am so happy that I actually picked it up, I have had this on my physical TBR for quite some time. It's been on my radar for even longer before I picked it up, but I've never been in the mood to pick it up. I haven't known when to pick it up. So the fact that someone had picked it for my TBR for August, when I was trying to pick a next book for my 24-hour readathon, I was like, okay, I want a fantasy. Ooh, maybe I'll read Caraval, get a book off my TBR that I had, you know, one of you had picked for me. And it could not have been more of a perfect time for me to read that. I actually feel like if I would have read that at any other point in time, I would not have loved it as much as I did. This book was also so far from what I was expecting, okay? Because first of all, why did I think this was a carnival? Where did I get that from? Because I could have swore, I actually would have swore up and down that I had heard people comparing this to a carnival. It is not a carnival. I really don't know where I got that from. So that was already different from my expectations, but also this had some dark turns that I wasn't expecting. I also wasn't really expecting like much romance, but there was quite a bit of romance and I was absolutely eating it up. Again, so far from my expectations, but definitely outshined my expectations. I enjoyed this so much. I had been on the fence about if I was going to skip the Caraval trilogy and just read the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, okay? And if you are in the same place, let me just tell you to please just read the Caraval trilogy. I've only read the first one, but it was so worth it, and I would have kicked myself later if I would have loved the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy and wanted to go back and read it, but I am such a person that likes to read things in chronological order that I would not have got myself to go back and read it. That is also something that happened with me with the Lachlan Feud series. I absolutely love that series so much. I actually would kind of want to reread them soon, but there is a series before that called the Lachlan Treaty series, and I kept telling myself I was going to go back and read them, but I can't get myself to because I already read the later books. So let this be your sign. If you are someone like that, just read the Caraval trilogy. It is so good. If you end up reading the first book and you don't like it, okay, skip the last two and go on, but at least try to read the first one because you might end up thoroughly enjoying it like I did. I ended up giving this book a 4.25 out of 5 stars. So good. Thoroughly enjoyed. Cannot even describe how much I enjoyed this, and I would highly recommend, especially going into the fall time. I think this is such a good book to read in the fall and winter. So that's the next book I read. And the next book I ended up reading is actually a manga, and that is After We Gazed at the Starry Sky by an author that I cannot pronounce, and I'm not gonna try because I don't want to butcher it. But I randomly picked this up a little while ago. It was one of the first manga I ever bought when I was just wanting to kind of get into reading some manga, and I hadn't read it yet, so I decided to pick it up, and this was so fun. I love how short these are and how it's just like a quick, easy read, but they're always so enjoyable for me, and I love it. One thing about this manga, when I was reading it, why was I literally hearing like the voices of the characters in my head as like how anime characters sound in like a slice of life anime? Like, I was hearing them how anime characters sound. It was so fun. Like, I was so randomly fully immersed in this. It was actually insane like how deep I fell into this when I was reading it, but it was so fun and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Our couple was so cute. Like, the relationship between these two guys was so freaking sweet and I loved it. Like, oh my god, it was so sweet. Like, we have one of our boys who is just so giddy and like kind of obsessed with our other guy because he's like a pretty famous photographer, and he's just kind of like so giddy meeting him for the first time. And the photographer guy, he's like kind of, they start to hang out and like he's just more chill, laid back, but why are they just so cute together? I just can't. It was so cute. And after I finished this, I was actually kicking myself for the fact that I didn't own the second one because I wanted to read it so bad. I still haven't got it. I am going to get it and continue this because it was so good and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And look how cute this cover is. It's so freaking cute. I'm obsessed. Thoroughly enjoyed. If you are someone who reads manga, or maybe you're wanting to get into manga, I feel like this is a great place to start and just a great one to read in general. It was so fun and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't honestly remember what I rated this, but I'm just gonna say right now, I'm gonna give it a 4. So that's what I rated that. And then the last book that I ended up completing, heavy on the completing, because there's a few books that I ended up not finishing just yet and I'm still kind of working on reading. The last book I completed in the month of August is Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes. This was the book club book that my sister had picked for us for July, and I just hadn't finished it, and I finally finished it in August. I ended up basically listening to the majority of this on Audible rather than reading it because I had started to, you know, I was reading it. The writing style of this is very different than what I'm used to, and I was really struggling to get into it, but since it was our book club book, I really wanted to, and also the premise of this book sounded very interesting and very different from anything I've ever read, so I really wanted to like give it a fair shot. So I decided to download the audiobook, and I'm so glad I did. It had two different narrators, one of them being Neil Patrick Harris, which felt really random, but anyways, there was two narrators because we kind of get some chapters that's in the POV of one of our main characters, Cliff, and then we also get some that are in the perspective of the dean. So we have Neil Patrick Harris narrating Cliff and then somebody else narrating the dean, and I thought it was so fun. The premise of this book is we're basically following three main characters. One of them, Cliff, is our main character, and these people are attending a school that they have no idea where it's at to learn how to commit murder and get away with it and, you know, murder your employer. There's like these rules and stipulations. You have to have a good reason. Is it going to affect other people's lives if this person dies in a good way, in a bad way, whatever. So this was really interesting. Again, unlike anything I've ever read, but I thoroughly enjoyed it and I loved listening to it. I thought it was really fun. This is definitely something that felt like more of a cozy read that I feel like would probably be really good for the fall time. It was actually really enjoyable. I honestly really enjoyed my time. How many times am I gonna say enjoy? I actually don't know, but I ended up giving this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Not my favorite book I've ever read or listened to, but it definitely was fun and I enjoyed it. Again, how many times am I gonna say it? And I would recommend it, especially if you are someone who does love a good like mystery type book or just a book with this kind of vibe. I think you would really enjoy it. It's just I'm not this type of person very much, but it was good. So that's that. And to quickly run through books that I am currently reading that I started in August that I haven't finished yet is Fake Flame. I ended up doing a soft DNF on that because at the time I was just not in the mood for a romance, but I was enjoying it and I knew that I would be enjoying it way more if I just put it down and picked it up at a later date. I'm also reading Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I have put this down just for the time being because I'm also reading Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and it was too much fantasy all at once, so I ended up putting Quicksilver down so I could continue and finish Powerless, and then I will pick that back up. And I also started doing a reread of Indigo Ridge, which if you guys know is my favorite romance series ever. So that is all the books I ended up reading in August. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already, because we have a lot of fun over here and we want you to join the fun. And with that being said, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. My throat actually hurts right now. Why? Not sure. How cute is that? This is the first year that for some reason I have decided to try a pumpkin mocha. I haven't tried one from anywhere. I've just made it myself and it is so good. And I don't know why I've never thought to combine the two before, because those are my two favorite kinds of coffee on the face of the planet. So don't know why I've never done that before, but it's so good. Oh my God. Actually, and I fell in love with her main how to handle the whoa. You know, we're gonna start over because I don't know what what's going on. Actually, don't know what I just said. Seeing the actual like our main like I love, oh my God, we're gonna start that over. We are. The inheritance, or that, at this point in time, I'm thinking it was that is something that happened to me. We have one of our guys who and with that being said, I hope you guys that's not what I was trying to say. Bye. I see your face. Need you more when you go. I need you more every day. Keep a foot on the brake in case I lose